Hey there, Krista Tidwell.
Hi, Ms. Tidwell.
I was just curious to get an idea. I know that we've heard that, maybe a tax increase, maybe revenue bonds. In 3 years, there's going to be reappraisals and more commercial tax coming in. But you get into office, you're going to do something. What is that going to be, and what should we expect to happen? What's kind of the time and the evolution of what you're going to do when? Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am, it does. Thank you for that, Ms. Tidwell. It's an excellent question, and I think it will take every day of the next 1,061 days to achieve. I think it's that big. Building roads is not a 6-month endeavor. When we start to look, in fact, when you're trying to repair and replace or enhance 6 roads, can you imagine the work that's got to go into all that? But it's something that we're going to start and we're going to try to achieve. Because if we don't start now, when do we do it? Do we wait another 4 years or another 6 years? And then what? We may never catch up, especially as the community continues to grow and grow and grow. But we're going to start looking right now at the engineering, acquiring right-of-way, developing the plans, meeting with all the interested parties up and down those thoroughfares to make sure that we have minimal impact on them and their households. So my plans for the roadways, ma'am, the streets, that's probably going to be an entire mayoral term. Period. I can't achieve that in the first year, second year, third year, fourth year, but we can definitely set it in motion and start getting it done. The full-time fire department, that is something I think it would start with getting all the stakeholders who presently provide the fire service, both from the county, our volunteer fire department, and hearing from them about what is the best way to proceed, and then me taking to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen a proposal of how we fund. I think we start with a fire chief. We go out and find the best person to be the best leader who has experience, obviously, in firefighting and EMS, but also in leadership. I want someone that's going to be able to tell me how they will recruit other firefighters and train them and lead them. Because that's a pretty tough job, don't you think, to train someone and lead them into actually going into a burning building. And so I want the best leader, whoever he or she may be. That's what we'll be looking for, is leadership qualities. That, ma'am, I hope to achieve at least by the midway point of my term. The first thing, and I said this earlier, I hope, we're going to be live streaming like we're doing right now on the 411. Sorry, I know I just blasted y'all out over there. Forgive me. We'll be live streaming all the meetings. That's a layup shot. And by the way, for a guy of my girth to be talking about making a layup, that's a real promise. But yes, ma'am, that'll be the next thing. But there's other things, ma'am, that we can achieve along the way that are not going to be cost dependent. For example, Ms. Tidwell, I've heard conversations from neighbors when I've been out knocking on doors that they're concerned about the speed limit that's in their neighborhood, especially when they're attached to a school. And they want to know, what can the town do to make it a safer place for my children just by lowering the speed limit 10 miles an hour and putting up new signs. That's something I'm going to be very attuned to. And I told these ladies something earlier at a meet and greet that we had at Mama's Java 3 weeks ago. I had a lady who lives over in Stonebrook. She's lived here 32 years. She came to see me, and she says, I've been watching your videos. I believe in you. I want to support you, but I need something from you. And I said, well, doesn't everybody? And no, I said, what is that, ma'am? She goes, will you make sure that my storm drain gets cleaned out, please? I said, yes, ma'am. In fact, we ought to probably work on that right now. Let me talk to some people. Because there are very few things that government should actually do, but whatever we specifically should do, we better do it well. And by the way, cleaning out storm drains is one of those things. Another thing is fire plugs. I'm going to go ahead and I might preempt someone's question here, but just to get to that. Now, my good friend Elmer Hill put a question out on the 411 or one of his postings about what was my service project the summer that I became an Eagle Scout. I don't know, Elmer, if we actually got a winner for that or not, but I'm going to go ahead and give it away. When I was 14 years old, myself and all the boys in my troop painted every fire hydrant in McEwen, Tennessee. And we would drive around the back end of an old Ford pickup truck and we'd say, there's one, and we'd get out and slap a bunch of paint on it. In my view, under the police powers and responsibilities of a town in the state of Tennessee, when a charter is granted, we have a responsibility to provide a police protection and fire protection. We have met it thus far by giving an annual donation fee expenditures to the Nolensville Volunteer Fire Department, as well as partnering with the county for EMS. Inherent in providing a fire service, I think, is making sure the fire plugs work. So, if I were mayor, we would put in place, the town would own the responsibility of making sure the fire plugs are inspected biannually or once a year. And hear me say, I'm not saying we're going to own the fire plugs. We're not going to take title and deed to all the fire plugs, but we're going to make sure that they work. We'll own that responsibility. And there's ways we can do it in partnership with both our friends at the water company as well as some HOAs perhaps. But that's my view on the fire plugs, and it's a simple one-sentence answer. The town will own the responsibility to make sure the fire plugs work, period.